quickly, I'm a speaker, I'm a facilitator, I'm an executive advisor at Indeed. This work is super important to me. I have spent the bulk of my career either helping people get jobs as a career counselor, resume writer, interviewing coach, or helping people do very well in their jobs as a trainer and facilitator. As an advisor at Indeed, I help employers hire. I work on both sides of this coin. I was just in with a very large pizza chain just now, helping them craft a structural interview process. And now I'm here with you all, helping you beat their system. So I work on both sides of this. I'm also a community builder. So my goal is to foster community and foster relationships and help us all do that better. Okay, so now it's your turn. I asked y'all if y'all knew each other, and y'all said this. So here's what I'd like you to do. I would love it if you would introduce yourself to someone that you do not know. I would love it if you would tell them, hi, my name is Ryan, and this is how I came to be named this, right? Quick, short, 2 sentences on how you got your name. Is that clear to all of us? So let's do this. This person that you introduce yourself to, this new person, this is your person for the remainder of our time together. So I would like us, I asked earlier how committed we were to our seats, our location. I would like you to find someone you have never met before, pair up with this person, and when you introduce yourself, tell them how you got your name. Are those instructions clear? All right, let's do it. If you can hear me, clap once. All right. Did you tell your person how you got your name? Did everybody get a chance to do this? Okay, this is your person for the remainder of our time together. It's less than an hour, so it's fine. But when I ask you to pick a partner, get with somebody, this is your person, okay? Is that cool? All right, cool. So today we're going to be focused on the job interview. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to do a little crash course in the purpose of storytelling and how it can make you stand out. We're going to put that into a framework called STAR. It's a framework for how you can tell your story in a way that is concise and clear and that eliminates rambling, because that sometimes happens in interviews. And then we're going to do some practice, and that's when you'll get with your person again, and we'll practice some of this stuff. Sounds good? The thing about job interviews, it is a twofold situation. So for you, as someone who is looking for a job or someone who is interviewing, your goal is to figure out whether or not this company and this role is a good fit for you. You want to know if it's a good fit for you based on your strengths. Y'all talked about strengths in the program, so based on your strengths, your skills, your values, the things that are important to you, your needs, so money, right? That's why we work. We're not out here doing stuff for free, unless we are, but that's a different thing. And your professional goals, right? So you want to assess whether or not this is a good fit for you. The employer, the person who is interviewing you, they have a goal too. They want to understand if you're a good fit for them based on your qualifications, based on their salary band, based on your background. And they're doing this, they're asking you questions in an effort to understand your past behavior. Because reason tells us that the best predictor of future behavior is what? Past behavior, right? That's what reason tells us. So they're trying to understand what have you done before so that we can predict how successful you'll be in the role. So that's kind of what we're doing, and that's where story comes in really, really heavy. To be clear, this is a flawed system. I'm not about to sit here and pretend that we are not operating in a pretty dysfunctional system right now. That method, trying to understand and predict your performance in a role based on an interview alone, it introduces a lot of bias. And that is important to keep in mind. There's a lot of bias baked into that system. It can be very subjective. It can be just, you can be met with people who don't know how to interview. Most of the time they don't train people on how to give a good job interview. This is not something they're training us on at companies. It's very flawed. But there are things that you can control. And the thing that you can control is the story you tell about yourself and how you are presenting yourself in the space. And so that's what I want us to do. I want us to control the things we can control, and as you rise up into whatever power ranks that you're going to rise up into, I want us to fix this. Because it can be riddled with bias against groups, against people who have been historically underrepresented, and I think that's worth acknowledging. All right, so let's talk about storytelling. Raise your hand if you introduced yourself to someone you never met before, just now. Raise your hand if you remember that person's name. All right. Who wants to tell me, maybe one person tell me how their person got their name? Does that make sense? Okay, this person in the back, yes.
My person got her name was Hannah, and she got it because in her family they use the same first letter. So her grandpa had the letter H, so that's why she was named Hannah, to kind of go off that first letter.
Nice. I love that. Anybody else? One more person. How did your partner get their name? Yes.
My person, Ainsley, she got her name because her mom was looking through a European name, like baby girl book, and she found Ainsley.
Nice. What is it that helps you remember these people's names? Like, why is it easy? Because the majority of y'all raised your hand saying you remembered your partner's name. What was it about that? A fact? A fact? Yes. So you got some piece of information about them, right? It's easy to remember things when we attach it to a story. It's more compelling. I am horrible with names, but by nature of the work that I do a lot of this kind of stuff. And then at the end of it, everybody comes up to me and they're like, you know, they want to talk or they have a question, and I invite this, I like this. But I have trouble remembering people's names. So I use that to help me remember their names. I'll ask them, how did you come to be named Ryan, right? Or Chela. So, how did you come to have this name? Because it'll help me remember their names. Because when I remember your story, more likely to remember your names. So there's some components of a good story, of a story, period. All stories have some variation of these four components here. So there's a setting, right? There's like some kind of context. There's going to be some characters, so you and who else is in the story. There's a conflict, so something happened, what happened? And then there is a resolution, how did it all go? So if you ask me, Chela, how did you get your name? I'm going to say back in the old days, there used to be phone operators. My mom was a phone operator. Do y'all know what? All right, so back before they had like caller ID and you can Google stuff, you had to call the phone operator to get somebody's number, yes? And they would put you through to this person. Context. Okay, so back, my mom used to be a phone operator. She was 7 months pregnant with me. She was pregnant with me, somebody called, a man, he was very much inebriated on the phone, he was drunk. He started singing to her. He started singing this song by this band called New Edition. Y'all don't know nothing about it, and I'm not even gonna sing it. But the name of the song was The Telephone Man. He starts singing this to my mom, and then he starts to cry. And then he starts to say, I need you to put me through to my girl, my baby, she won't answer the phone, she broke up with me, she left me, and so he starts crying. And my mom is like, well, what's your baby's name? And he says, her name is Chela Griffin. And my mother, who was pregnant with a baby girl, needed a name, and she named me Chela after the drunk man's girlfriend. That's how I got my name. That's a story, right? You're gonna remember my name. Settings, there's characters, my mom, the drunk man, me in her belly, conflict, he's upset, something happened, and then the resolution, that's how I got my name, right? So all of the stories contain some of this. And if you start, before you dive and start to spiral out and think like, oh no, I don't have a story like that, we are all natural born storytellers. We tell stories every day. Every time somebody comes up to you and say, hey, how was your weekend? You start telling the story, right? So keeping in mind that this is something that we all do, and I lost my deck again. Sorry, guys. Okay, good. This is something that we all do all the time. So, all stories contain those previous 4 elements. Good stories contain these. So there's a clear theme, right? There's like something that links the story together. There is something that is compelling. Maybe it's not drama, but something that captures the audience's attention. And there's some sort of audience consideration. You know who you're talking to. So in the context of today, we're talking about job interviews, and we're talking about storytelling in that context. So you know you're going to be talking to an employer, right, or an interviewer. Compelling, so this is going to be something that's capturing someone's attention, and then your theme. So when I think about some of your career experience and as you're trying to grow into your careers, I'm thinking that your themes could be around maybe exploration or interest. Or some of you might already know what you want to do or what you want to try, right? So thinking about what is the theme for this era, that's what y'all call it, this era in my life, right? What am I thinking that the theme is going to be? So this question here, so tell me about yourself. This is probably one of the most common job interview questions. Why is this hard to answer? Tell me.
It's broad.
It's what?
It's broad.
It's broad, yes.
I was just gonna say it's so open-ended.
Open-ended. What makes this hard?
I think our self-doubt about ourselves also makes it hard to be able to talk about achievements.
Yeah.
I also think it's hard to say everything about yourself in one short response. It's
Yes.
deciding what you're gonna say.
Exactly. I was born in 19-something, right? This is what, from a small town, that can be such a large question. When employers are asking you to tell them about yourself, they want to know what interests you, they want to know why you're here, they're trying to get a good sense of your professional fit. Remember when I said earlier that they're trying to understand if you would be a good fit for the role based on your qualifications? It's always going to be in line with that theme, your answer. This question is hard to answer because, to my friend's point, it's so broad and you can end up rambling because you don't know what to say. So I offer you a framework for how to answer these sorts of questions. I did not create this. This is called the STAR method. It's a very common storytelling method that we are going to use for the purpose of interviews. But you can use this across the spectrum. You can use it in interviews. You can use it in introductions. You can use it on your resume. There's so many applications for this framework. For behavioral-based interview questions, I highly encourage this method. So this is what we're going to be working with today. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So that situation, that's going to be the context for your story, right? What was happening? What was going on? My mom was pregnant with me. She was working as the operator, right? That's the context. The task, what is your role in the story? Now that particular story, you can't really apply STAR, but thinking about what your role in this situation is. Action, how did you apply your skills? How did you apply yourself in this context? And then result, then what happened, which is the most important thing. I am going to very thoroughly break this down for you, and then I'm going to ask you to practice it a little bit. And I'm going to start with the situation part, so the context for your story. And let's use that question that is so hard for us to answer, so tell me about yourself, right? We're going to use the STAR method to answer yourself. So I put my answer because there is a certain way that I want to project myself. Remember I said that you can control how you put yourself out there into the world? So for me, it's really important that I put myself out there and I lead with my passions and my strengths. And so my answer is going to reflect that. So if an interviewer says to me, so Chela, tell me about yourself, I'm going to say something like this, sure thing. So ultimately, I am a connector and a community builder. And while I wear a lot of different hats in my current role as an executive advisor, my favorite one is influencing execs from well-known companies to adopt equitable hiring initiatives as part of their recruiting strategy. In fact, I just had the chance to do that with Johns Hopkins. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting a scene. I'm setting a scene so that I can show this person, these are my passions, these are my strengths. This is what I want to be known for. So when you think about the situation for this particular question, so tell me about yourself. Think about, what is it that I want to be known for? What is it that I'm trying to convey in this situation? I'm going to pause because I want to make sure that I'm being clear here. So does anybody have any questions about this? Comments or curse words about situation? All right. I'm gonna keep going, but I want you to know, if at any point you have any questions or comments, I want you to engage with me. Don't feel like you can't speak up, okay? All right, let's talk about tasks. So the next portion of this framework, what is your role in this particular story? We're still working with the same interview question, so tell me about yourself. And I just told them that I just had the chance to do some equitable hiring work for Johns Hopkins. I was setting the scene, right? I was recently tasked with delivering an executive briefing to the leadership team at Hopkins because they were struggling to fill all their open nursing roles. This is an expensive problem to have, and my task was to help them solve it through consultation and training. So again, I'm moving forward, I'm telling the interviewer a little bit about me and a little bit about my work so that they can see that I am an impactful employee. Next is action. How did I apply my particular skill set to this situation? As part of that briefing, I brought in a strategist. So I told you I'm a connector and a community builder. I brought in a strategist who helped them build an initiative for partnering with organizations that support historically underrepresented people to fill their pipeline. And then I also taught them how to showcase their diversity and inclusion efforts on their job sites, on their company pages. So again, I'm talking about these are the skills that I brought to this situation. This is how I navigated this task. And then finally, the results of my effort. So then what happened? Well, it resulted in more applicants because I was able to go to their Indeed company page and see how many people applied for their jobs. It also resulted in them having relationships in their local communities, and as a bonus, it resulted in open career opportunities for people from underrepresented groups, right? So there's all of these things, all of these different impacts. So my role as a connector and a community builder is the common thread in my career, and that's what I'm trying to convey to this person who's asking me to tell them about myself. What's tricky about this? Is this easy? What's hard about this?
I think the worst part is like trying to connect what you're trying to say to the story.
Yeah, so like trying to connect what you're trying to say.
Like your abilities, and then using the story to connect that.
So crafting a story. So again, remember I told us, we are storytellers naturally. We naturally tell stories all the time. So it is tricky, because if you're thinking about it as methodically as I broke it down, you're going to be like, wait a minute, what's the task? You know, like what? And I recognize that. I want us to think about it as a conversation. We're going to call it weekend language. Just practice telling the story like you would tell it to someone on the weekend, right? Just real easy. I would like us to try this. So, I have 2 questions on the screen. I have 2 common interview questions. The first is, tell me about yourself. The second is, tell me about a time you set a goal and accomplished it. Okay? I would love you to choose one of these, and when I say practice the STAR method, I'm going to have you, everybody has like kind of something to write with, or a laptop, or something. I want you to take some notes about each part of the STAR method. So choose a question, and I want you to take some notes about the situation, the task, the action, and the result, so that you can start to think about how you might answer a question like this. You don't have to write down your answer word for word, but I do want you to think about each component of STAR. Let's do that for about 2 minutes, so not too long. Okay, it sounds like we're wrapping up, and if you did not finish, it's okay, you'll have more time to practice. How was it practicing that first one? I get a thumbs up? Okay, are y'all feeling good about practicing? Anybody feeling like maybe it was a little bit more challenging than we thought? Yes, help me understand what was a little more challenging than we thought.
I think I struggled picking like kind of one track or one thing to
go
go
off
off that's represented by.
Yeah, so one of the things that's going to be challenging, and that is a really fair point, sometimes, especially when you're just starting out, like for those of you who are maybe looking for internships or you're moving into maybe your first role, it can be hard to know where to focus. So what the advice that I offer is think about your values. So always start with your values in mind. What is most important to you? What would feel good? And I know y'all have done some values work. I know Vaishali is really big on that, and y'all know her, right? Y'all work with it. Okay, good. So I would say think about your values and think about your strengths. And identify your top 3 values and your top 3 strengths, and let that be your North Star for crafting how you want to portray yourself, how you want to come across. So it's kind of like you have to take some steps back to start to formulate that answer, because you're right, it can be really challenging when you're not quite sure what you want to be known as, right? Think about what you want people to say about you when you're not there. Like if I'm not in the room and people are having a conversation about me, I want them to say, Shay is a community builder. Like that is what she focuses on. I want them to say like, she's beautiful, she's smart. You know, there's a bunch of stuff I want them to say. But I want them to focus on the things that are important to me, the things that I value, right? That's what I want to be known for. So think about it that way. What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to say about you when you're not there? What else is hard about this? Who else? Some other people raise their hand yet.
Part of me worries that like it'll sound like I'm rambling instead of like telling me
A
about
story?
myself. I'm just like, oh, and like here's this fun thing I did. So, like telling them about me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. So again, thinking about what you want to be known for, trying to be concise, because this is a framework, right? And the whole point of the framework is to reduce the amount of rambling. So we'll do some practice and try to refine that a little bit, but keep that in mind as we're continuing to practice a little bit more. So because that is a good point too. We don't want to ramble, we don't want to go on and on. Brevity is a skill, and it's something that we're going to practice, and that I encourage you to continue to practice. Long-windedness is the enemy of the deal. All right, so here's an example that I have done here for another question using the STAR method, and I'm going to walk you through it, and I want you to identify what is the situation, the task, the action, and the result as I share this answer with you all. So the question that the interviewer is asking here is, tell me about a situation where you took initiative or took on a leadership role, and my person starts to tell me about that situation. So last semester, as a program coordinator, I helped organize an open house for local nonprofits seeking student volunteers. The students responsible for coordinating with nonprofits used our standard forms for the internship fairs, but some sections were irrelevant. It didn't make sense for them. So I circulated a Google Doc of the existing form and got a bunch of feedback on the things that were unclear or irrelevant. And then I took that feedback and I developed a tailored version that captured all of the necessary information for the event. I took the initiative to create a tailored form for nonprofits seeking volunteers to ensure clarity and professionalism with the goal of maximizing signups. And then what happened? I presented my proposed form to the manager, and after some adjustments, we implemented it. Over the subsequent 2 weeks, we secured as many commitments from organizations as we had in the previous 2 months. My proactive approach impressed my boss, and they offered me the position of senior student coordinator for the fall, where I'll be training new employees. Situation, task, action, result. Or tell me about a time when you took on a leadership or initiative role. Questions, comments, concerns about this? All right, perfect. Now, we're going to work on it a little bit more. And this is the part where we're truly going to do some work and get our hands dirty for the beginning. I want you to take a few minutes and answer these 2 questions using the STAR method. So again, I want us to put this into practice. You're going to tell me about an assignment or project from start to finish, what went well, and what would you have done differently. So I'd like you to use the STAR method to answer that. And then tell me about a time you overcame a challenge or obstacle, okay? I say on here that you can choose one question and workshop your answer. I would love you to do both. So let's try to do both of these. I'm going to give us some time to work on it. I'll walk around and help you out. If you have any questions, I'll be walking through the audience. Yeah? All right. And you can just stop.
project he's finished.
Yeah, most of my like, and it's like I don't know.
You can talk about the fact that you're working on it and that you're really proud of it, and that is enough for the result, especially where you are, right? So we recognize that you're students. Like I interview and hire all the time. We're not expecting to come in and be like, yeah, whatever. Like, I built a rocket or whatever. Like, I don't know they're looking for potential. So keep in mind, looking for potential, they're looking to help you. I got it. They're looking to help themselves understand how to right? So they're trying to, remember I told you, they're trying to predict your success. So if you're moving towards success, that's enough. You just need to be able to bring them away. And that's why we use put my screen back up. I'll be back around. I would love to hear. I'm going to have you. No. I would love to hear. Seriously. It helps. No.
That's true.
Okay, I feel like y'all have been having some conversations already, which is actually a really good thing. I highly encourage this. What I've been telling other people in the room, your best resource for this kind of stuff is going to be each other. I can give you examples of my STAR answers all day long, but because of the level that I am in my career, it's going to just be like, oh yeah, like yeah, I built the rocket and we went to Mars, and you're going to be like, I didn't do that. Like, so talking with each other, hearing each other's answer to some of these questions, that's going to be the way that you can sharpen and refine your own, I promise you. There's so much you can learn from one another in here. And in that vein, we're going to do that. So remember I had you pick a partner earlier, and I said this is going to be your person. Now is the time where we practice our answers. So we have an interviewer and a candidate. Get with them and choose who's going to be interviewer first and who's going to be candidate first. My friends, yes. I'm here for thumbs up. How's everybody feeling? Are we thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down? I see some up. I see up in the back. I see y'all. Up in the back. Okay, I see some sideways. I was getting some questions while I was walking around, and I asked some people if they wouldn't mind asking their questions, like so that the broader group could hear them. But first, I would like to hear someone's STAR answer to one of the questions. And there was a Riley here. I think I lost her. Oh wait, she's pointing to someone. How comfortable are you sharing one of your answers to the question? I'll come to you. You don't even have to come up here. I'll come back there. Which question did you answer? Describe a project from start to finish. What's your name? Anshu? Okay. Anshu, please describe a project from start to finish.
Hi everyone. Okay, so my parents were traveling abroad, and so they had multiple currencies that they were switching between. So I decided to create a Chrome extension that easily converts from USD to any other currency that they were using. And so this is a personal project of mine. I used YouTube tutorials and documentation online to develop the Chrome extension. It's built on JavaScript. So
Nice. And what was the result of that?
and they were easily able to convert their currency without much of a hassle.
Amazing. Anybody else who would like to share their star statement for one of the questions? Would anybody else care to? Yes, my friend up here. Okay, what's your name?
My name's Shreya.
Shreya.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Shreya, what question are we?
I did the I did the project and experience one.
I can't even remember what the question was.
The one that I'm shooting.
Oh, okay, the same one that
Yes.
I should. Yes. Okay, why don't you answer that for us using the STAR method?
Sure. So recently I got the chance to create an opportunity log for my entrepreneurship class. And basically what we were supposed to do is interview different people about problems and daily inconveniences in order to identify entrepreneurial opportunity. So through the assignment, we were trying to find one problem and go deeper into it so we could see it from different perspectives and possibly find a solution. The way I did it was I interviewed my classmates and some old friends from high school and got to know about different things they faced every day. And a problem I came across was a lack of genuine communication. In college, especially with competition and meeting new people, it can be hard to form true relationships with people you meet. And through the process, after seeking guidance from my professor, going to office hours, and even re-interviewing some people, I was able to identify a potential solution to this issue through an app or a form that students could use to be matched with clubs that can match their interests. And the result of that is that
You're fine.
the result of that is that people are able to form more genuine relationships because they're talking about things that are non-academic.
Very authentic
And
relationship.
authentic.
I love that. Thank you, Shreya. Thank you so much for sharing. One more. One more person. Yes, right here. Attack the date. Yes, what's your name?
This was a year-long project. So for my research paper, I wanted to combine both interests of mine, which are swimming and art. And so when I came to present it, I wanted to use two skills, one of them being a creative problem solver and the other being a visionary. So what came about is I had to present my idea, and there was a lot of doubt when it came to this from my professor. And I decided to rebel against it anyway, and I went for it. So I had to experiment with this, and I had to create a very strong literary review background from art in the past and how doodling affects the brain and can relax it, to swimming, the background that swimming has in the fundamentals from the very start of the stroke. From there, with that background in mind, I went in and I performed an experiment with the consent of my teammates. This was a 3-month journey, and through that 3-month journey from the first trial to the second trial, there was a significant impact with both quantitative and qualitative data, receiving feedback not only from the athlete, but also through the times. And it received a very well grade, and it was presented nationally on through College Book.
Nice. Very nice. So I want y'all to keep practicing this stuff. I appreciate everyone who has shared. The best way to share this is going to be with each other. So again, utilize each other. I have a couple minutes. What questions do we have about this? Who has a question? Yes, and then we'll do.
Okay, I know you talked about how there was bias and it's a flawed system. What is the most effective method that you found to approach bias in a job environment?
If you are approaching bias, this is so there's an employer answer here, and then there's a person answer if you are witnessing something or you feel like you're experiencing something. From an employer standpoint, I just walked an employer through today how to do structured interviews that are behavioral in nature so that we are eliminating bias and how to use a rubric and a scorecard to rate people's answers. So that's one way. If you are witnessing something that you experience to be biased, you can call this behavior out. If you're an employee, if you're here in a situation, you can call this behavior out with that person, ask them questions. Questions is always going to be like one of the best ways to get it. But come from it from the perspective of trying to understand as opposed to accusatory. There is a book I want to highly encourage you all to check out, and it's not necessarily about bias, but it is a framework for having challenging conversations. It's called Crucial Conversations. And in it, they use a method called STATE for approaching situations with enough tact so that you can actually get down to the root of the problem. So because the thing about bias is, sometimes we witness something and we say that's bias, but it's so subtle that it's hard to call it out without raising defenses. So you want to be able to say, hey, the other day I saw this, and this happen. And the story I tell myself about that is this and this. Can you help me understand what's going on? So you're creating a space for that person to engage with you as opposed to raising the defenses right away and just not getting anywhere. So check out Crucial Conversations. You don't even have to get the book. You can get it from the library, but you can just like go to their website and look up that framework for approaching those conversations.
Perfect.
Yeah, I highly encourage that. Other questions? Yes?
When you talk about overcoming an objection, whether you're young or older, would you rather hear something that they overcame of something they were making, or overcame of a situation with somebody they knew, more of a personality conflict? What's something you think they should focus on more?
Yeah, that's a challenging question. It's all going to depend on the role. So what is the job you're interviewing for? So look at the job description, look at those qualifications. What are you trying to convey? As an employer, like as someone who interviews and hires people, it is important for me to understand how you relate to other people because I believe that relationship building is one of those skills that we often, it's probably one of the most important things we do at work and in a career and in our lives, and we kind of dismiss it in favor of technical skills. And so for me personally, I want to hear how you relate to people. I think that's a great answer. But that might not necessarily be the case. So I encourage you to use your resources at your disposal. The job description is a resource that you can use to understand your qualifications. There's Glassdoor, and Indeed. I'm not just saying that, I promise. I'm not just saying that I work there. You can use those Q&A features on Glassdoor and Indeed to get an understanding of the interview process at that company and see what their culture is like so you can better answer that question. And then finally, the recruiter. Y'all, the recruiter wants you to get the job. Because if you get the job, guess what? They check that off their list, they meet their hiring quota. Let them help you. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. It's a perfect opportunity to see them as a partner. So check out those resources at your disposal and then craft your answer that way. I think we might be at time. We've got 2 minutes. One more question. Yes?
When it comes to, I noticed that you first start with a skill. And whenever you're applying for a certain role, how do you look at a particular situation that you think will be fit for the job and extract the skills that you want to start that conversation with?
So again, thinking about those job descriptions and looking at the competencies that they're hiring for, using the resources at your disposal. So it's always going to be, okay, these are the requirements for the role. so this is the skill that I need to maybe try to highlight. If I don't have this skill, can I talk about it hypothetically? Look, I haven't done that just yet, but I've done something like it, and here's how I approached it, and here's how I would approach this. Because I know, again, we're starting out in our careers, so many of us, and so something to keep in mind is thinking about the fact that you might not necessarily have done that before, but can you speak to it? Because we're looking to see how you would perform in a role. We're trying to predict your success in a job, and sometimes that's potential. We're looking for potential. Okay, unfortunately, I think my time is up. I think they're gonna kick me out of here, but you can reach out. I got email, I got LinkedIn, I got social media. I encourage you to, if you follow me on social, like say hi. Like, you know, if you request me on LinkedIn, please.
My name is Gari Mishra. I'm a consulting and change management and HDO double major, and I'm class of 2026. My biggest takeaway from this event was definitely the STAR method and learning how to format your responses to include storytelling. I think the exercise that she started off with, where we had to tell the story of how we came to be named, whatever we're named, and how every single person remembered the name of their partner, I think that taught a really valuable lesson in the importance of storytelling.